This week's Parsha marks the beginning of Klal Yisrael, but it also marks the beginning of what we could call the relationship, Kaviyachol, between the Ribono Shel Olam and the Jewish people. And that relationship is characterized through commandments, through mitzvot. Now that is a great innovation in the world, even today, because the other religions don't have mitzvot. And generalities. But prayer, but they don't have the concept of a mitzvah. A mitzvah is something that you're commanded to do because of the fact that you want to have this connection with the Ribono Shel Olam, and these are the rules by which the connection is maintained. So we have in this week's Parsha, as I've mentioned for the past two nights, we have the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, of how to establish time, calendar, months, etc. And then we have the mitzvahs that are associated with Pesach. So there are three stages, so to speak, three different times. There's Pesach Mitzrayim. So according to most Meforshim, Pesach Mitzrayim was only one day. And then there's Pesach Doros, Pesach that we have always, which for us is 7 days. And then we have the fact that there was, at the Zman of the Beis HaMikdash, or the Zman of the Mishkan, there was the Korban Pesach. Those were the foundations of Pesach. So the Torah taught us that only through the fulfillment of mitzvot would Pesach, so to speak, retain its meaning, retain its value. Why? Because we have, the Torah itself indicates it. There'll come a day that there will be generations that never experienced Egypt, that never experienced the past. And then they will say, what is Pesach? It's not only Mo'avodah Azos Lachem. What are the mitzvahs? What is Pesach? Why do we need it? We're 70 years an independent country. We can do what we want, what we think we can. So what do we need? Why do we commemorate it? And we find that throughout the world, in all cultures, the difficulty in commemorating past events is clear, it's evident. So that even the great national holidays of independence in the United States, for instance, or in France or in other countries, it somehow does not have the meaning that it certainly had to the people who experienced it, the people who lived through it. So how do we keep that? How do we make it meaningful? And how do we make it meaningful to later generations as well? So on that's really the secret of mitzvot. The dinim of chametz and matzah, the Pesach Seder, the mitzvahs that are associated with Pesach they keep Pesach alive for us. And when, God forbid, the mitzvahs are no longer present, so then the whole thing evaporates, it dies, it disappears. Because why should I celebrate something that happened 2,000 years ago, or 200 years ago, or even 20 years ago? That's not how the human mind, the rational mind, works, so to speak. But the idea to do mitzvot and the obligation to do mitzvot, that is incumbent at all times and in all places, and that's what does it for us. That is the key to it. So we're introduced for the first time that there's a God that wants us to do certain things at certain times, in certain places, in certain ways. That's a revolutionary concept, and that's a concept, again, as I mentioned, the rest of the world hasn't bought into that. And we are witness to the fact that Jews who feel that somehow they don't have to observe the mitzvot and they'll remember everything and they'll take care of everything anyway, etc. We're witness to the fact that that doesn't happen, that just the opposite happens. It all evaporates, it all disappears. And it doesn't have the ability to withstand the pressures of time and circumstance. So therefore the mitzvahs of Pesach were meant to preserve Pesach. The preservation of Pesach lies in its mitzvot. And once having accomplished the mitzvot, so then Pesach takes on a meaning that it is able to survive all times and all places and under all circumstances, celebrated and commemorated, etc. So we see that Chazal did this even like Purim. Purim is preserved because there are mitzvot, right? Because there's Suda, and there's Mishloach Manos, and there's Kriyas Megillah, and there's Matonas Levionim. That's how it's preserved. Otherwise, it would just be a memory of the fact that we somehow escaped. But I need not point out that in our time, for instance, the terrible events of the Shoah, but they evaporate. They don't have staying power for generations that didn't experience it. And therefore they say it's enough already. And when you're forced to make a museum about something, so that testifies to the fact that it really is not alive within the people. There's no museum of Pesach. And then the Torah to reinforce this idea of mitzvot. So the parsha concludes with the mitzvah of tefillin, which is a completely not understandable mitzvah. To wind it on your arms and wear it on your head. But the mitzvah, the Gemara says that the mitzvah of tefillin is so important. Karkafta de lo monach tefillin. If you have someone that, God forbid, didn't put on tefillin, that's like being a traitor. And you see, for instance, I always admire in the airport, Chabad has that tefillin station. There are always the people that go there. I guess maybe many people go there because they think it's a good luck charm for the airplane flight they're going to take. But whatever the reason is, There's an innate reason that it lives. And so that's a mitzvah that we have, a mitzvah that accompanies us, and the Torah emphasizes it, and the Torah demands it from us. And that, so to speak, becomes what we are every day. The head that wears tefillin every day, so then that becomes a Jewish head. And that has many ramifications in society and in human behavior. So this entire mitzvah, the concept of mitzvahs, is basic to any understanding of Torah and understanding of the Jewish people and of the Jewish story. That's why the nusach, the bracha, is always Asher Tzivonu. It doesn't say, because I feel like it, or because I'm emotionally attached. In fact, we see in our tefillas that the emotion is always from the other side. Heaven has an emotion to us. Ava Rabba Avdonu, Ava Solam Avdonu. It's not our Ava, because human emotion is fickle. And it can't be based on emotion. And it can't be based on the fact that today I feel like it and tomorrow I don't feel like it. And that concept of mitzvah, asher tzivonu, because we were commanded to do it, and that's what my relationship, so to speak, is with my Creator. And that finality of the relationship is really what has driven the Jewish people throughout all of the ages. And God forbid, when that fails, when it is not present, so then all of the other things begin to fall apart as well, and eventually disintegrate and are not present at all. And there was a time that people felt that we would be preserved by memory of Jewish history. That never happened. And then there was a time that people said we'd be preserved by loyalty to the state of Israel. But that also didn't happen. It doesn't happen. Yeah. Rabbi Goldberg told me that he took a number of secular Israelis on a tour in New York. So he took them on the Upper West Side, and a few intellectuals came, and they said, we're Jews who are anti-Israel. Okay. So that eventually fails. And even in the religious community of those who are against Israel, it's more of a pro forma slogan than a reality. So all of this is involved in mitzvahs. And this is the parsha of mitzvahs. And therefore Moshe has to introduce the Jewish people to the concept, because that's the concept that will allow them to really be a free, independent, and productive people. There's a program tonight here in Shul of a book launch by Eli Friedwald, 8 o'clock. You're all invited. I'm certain it'll be an entertaining and informative evening.
Command performance. Attendance will be taken.
Yeah, no question about it. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash, Omer Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lezakas Yisrael, V'vicha Chirba Lehem Torah, Mitzvot Shener, and Anoich Hafetz, Man Sitkoi, Avil Torah, Yah.